and more are joining, but we can start. We are 5 minutes over now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sanjay Sethi. I'm the Executive Director of Plant-Based Foods Industry Association. I'm also donning another hat of helping the US Soybean Export Council for the human utilization of soybean. Soybean being the main ingredient of plant-based foods is very important for us that we get uniform quality of protein so that we can make absolutely amazing quality of plant-based meat. Our sector has been going through some pain in the US recently, but in India, the sector continues to grow at a roaring speed. What happened in US also affected the investment in our sector to some extent. But the large companies, multinational companies, are very, very bullish, and they continue to make investments in India and abroad because they understand that the future of food is plant-based. And they also understand that it is the big companies who have been doing a good job in providing safe food. And perhaps there's an assumption that the street food and the startups and the MSME sector cannot do the excellent job that big companies do. So if that is the perception, there must be some reason for that. So we want to remove that reason. We want to ensure that food is safe for all the consumers, whether it is plant-based foods or any other food. Food should be safe. So for us to ensure that the food is safe, we should support our startups, that they also learn the craft from big organizations, that how a safe food is prepared and delivered. And we have also noted that recent efforts by many startups in our industry have been very, very successful. The reason for this is that their sales are growing, and the proof of this is that they are also getting recognized at multiple platforms. It is not only the plant-based foods industry awards that they were recognized at. There are multiple awards by multiple agencies in which they are getting recognized. So it shows that they are not only providing safe food, they are not only providing plant-based foods, they are also providing very tasty and futuristic food. So today's discussion is focused on ensuring that we take care of the food safety aspect. We take care of not just meeting the minimum requirement that the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India has put it, but we exceed those so that we go on to build brands which win the trust of the consumers, and they become lifetime brands, and they become brands which all the consumers are very proud of. India has seen some such brands, and those companies have grown very big in the recent past. But at the same time, we must support all the startups and provide them. It is something that which can be learned, for which the investment can be made. So we have JU AgriScience also today to understand as to what is the kind of investment which is needed in the sector so that they can support the startups, and also we hear from such speakers. So it's a very diverse set of amazing line of speakers. But before I invite them, I would request my team to introduce themselves, to start with Medha Gupta, who put in the most of the effort for this webinar, and then Narhari would share a presentation that the team has prepared, and then I will have to leave a little early, and Aditi Sharma will then coordinate and call the speakers one by one. And but before Narhari comes, I request Medha and Indra and then Aditi to introduce themselves.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. My name is Medha Gupta, and I'm working in PBFIA as a senior manager. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. This topic is actually very important food safety because it's just not the regulatory measure. It also states the business growth and business trajectory of anybody who wants to enter into food business operations. So we're going to have like a good length of speakers who's going to share some insights in terms of how they're managing food safety, and also some regulators who have pastly worked there to share more guidance about what to follow and what not to follow. So I hope this will be very informative for everyone. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, good morning, and thank you for joining us in this webinar. Like Medha mentioned, it is very crucial for us. So my name is Indra and I work at PBFIA as innovation specialist. I'm a food technologist and work mostly towards the research aspects at PBFIA. So I think the plant-based foods industry in India has grown tremendously over the past couple of years, right? And with this growth comes great responsibility. That is of creating foods that are not only hygienic but also very safe for consumption. And a lot of factors are to be considered when you want to really minimize the risk of contamination and other things. And few things are transparency, traceability, and other things. And I think we will learn about all of these things in today's webinar. And I hope you take away a lot from this webinar and also implement it so that we all, as startups ourselves, we can set a really good, we can teach other startups as well of how we can develop safe food. So looking forward to learning a lot along with all of you as well. Thank you.
Aditi, your turn now.
Yes, sure, sir. Hello, everyone. This is Aditi Sharma, and I am based out of Mumbai, but I am in Gurugram right now, and I'll be here for a couple of months. So, like the team mentioned, that the plant-based industry is growing. And having said that, the startup industry is growing. The convenience food is something that is taking over. So, while and one major thing that is also taking over is the awareness amongst the consumers on what they're eating, right? So they have now started to read about what is food safety, what is the kind of food they are consuming, what are the ingredients, and so on. So it is essential that keeping all these factors in mind, and of course, keeping the consumers' health in mind, we focus on food safety, and that is where the idea came about for the food safety webinar. And of course, all the experts are here to teach us about it. So we ourselves are looking forward to hearing more from them. Um, yes, that's about it from my side. Looking forward to the webinar. Thank you. Over to you, Narhari.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Narhari Gupta, and I'm working as an innovation specialist at Plant-Based Foods Industry Association. I'm also looking after the members' services and membership drive. And I come from a background of hospitality and nutrition. So I've completed my graduation from Institute of Hotel Management, Applied Nutrition, Mumbai. And in today's webinar, we look forward to talk about food safety, which is of utmost important as taste, nutrition, as well as other things about any kind of food that we provide to end consumer. So I have a brief presentation, which will not take more than 5 minutes, and I will be sharing it now. So thank you all for joining today. And the topic of today's webinar is food safety, a real deal breaker. So as we all know that there is no business security without food security, because it leads to like the positive impacts of maintaining food safety is to avoid getting negative reviews, is to avoid getting lawsuits, is to establish good reputation in the industry, reduce financial loss, and remain planned for unexpected inspections. So Government of India, to support the startup community, has promoted ease of doing business, has reduced the constraints and made it drastically easy for FBOs, food business operators, to initiate their businesses and to easily obtain the licenses to start their businesses. This has led to a kind of socialist movement where the food business communities have to take care of themselves, and big business owners have to actually take care of startups. Industry stalwarts have to come in and talk to entrepreneurs and understand their pain points and actually help them out. But it has its own pros and cons. The pros are, as Sir has already mentioned, that it has become far easier to start a business in India. As you must have seen in past couple of years, that hundreds of cloud kitchens and various small food businesses have opened in every city. And this actually has led to diverse range of products. So this kind of movement also has its cons. For example, people from non-food background are the most vulnerable who have started their journey into entrepreneurship in the food sector. And they like one bad product can actually uh, ruin the reputation of the entire industry. So this brings me to the next slide. Every one of you must have heard the news about Maggie, which happened a few years ago. So a small issue like presence of MSG and lead, which is not small, it actually can lead to problems in to consumer health. But the financial impact of this issue was more than like $500 million loss for Nestle. And recently, like 2, 3 days ago, you must have heard in the news that a schoolgirl died after consuming meat products from a restaurant in Namakkal, and 43 others were hospitalized. So this has led to all of us thinking that is reducing the constraints in starting a food business a good idea, or do we need to rethink about it? Are communities ready to support startups and new businesses in their sector? Or do we have to again have uh, heavy constraints on starting a business in food industry, food sector? So that's why in Mumbai, you must have heard that FSSAI has been doing tremendous work in probing against food safety measures that are like not being followed in restaurants. In well-known restaurants such as Academia, it was actually shut because they were not able to follow food safety guidelines. They were not able to have proper licenses, and their kitchens were actually caught in bad conditions. So recently, FSSAI has launched 1,411 prosecution cases against food businesses since April 2023 for violating food safety laws. And apart from this, FSSAI finds 32 fresh cases in alleged contravention of their provisions of food safety and standard rules in south of India. So this is not for the entire country, but this is for a part of a state. So the problem is that before PBFIA came in, a lot of food startups in the plant-based sector were actually working in silos, which led to minimum communication between them and other players in the industry. So it is the responsibility of big companies and associations like PBFIA to basically bring them all together and make the communication happen so that startups can actually learn from big food tech companies, big food safety related companies, so that we all can work together and grow the industry together. So people who don't know, people who are new to this session and don't know much about PBFIA, here's a brief introduction. So PBFIA is a CEO-led body in India with currently over 125 plant-based food companies as its members. So most of these members are startups. Some are big companies, big organizations such as Imega, Simrise, uh, and many other companies. So what we have done through various webinars, through various events, we actually bring them together. We actually allow speakers from these big organizations to actually share their experiences and learnings so that startup entrepreneurs can learn from it and implement those in their own potential ways. So Plant-Based Food Industry Association is also the founding member of International Plant-Based Food Working Group. So this is basically a group of associations from all across the world. So its members are from Canada, from UK, from Mexico, USA. There are two associations focusing on plant-based foods in Europe. There's also China, who is playing a crucial role. So we together work towards gathering information across the globe so that we can bring that information to our members and make them not only good in the Indian market, but globally as well. So you can, here's a brief slide on our members. So you can see there are so many different companies which are providing so many diverse range of products. India has, like to be honest, the most diverse range of plant-based products in the entire world. Starting from cheeses to milks to Indian delicacies to Indian dishes. You can find it all in the plant-based sector in India. So the problems demanding our attention at PBFIA. So we have realized that there are several different layers of focus that we have to put in order to grow this industry. So our primary focus is price, over processing, and taste. So price is something that we are focusing on right now because the price of plant-based products doesn't it's actually hampering the availability and accessibility of plant-based products to all. And then we have over-processing, as we all know that there are ingredients that are being used in plant-based products that are considered to be over-processed. We are also doing our research on the same and working with food technology companies to bring out various innovative technologies so that we are able to provide highly nutritious food to the end consumer. And then taste is something that like not only us, like everyone in the food industry feels that it is one of the leading factors that will make any product grow. But apart from this primary focus, we should not forget that keeping price, food processing, and taste in mind, we also have to keep food safety in mind as well. So apart from this, we are also focusing on entrepreneurship development, funding, consumer awareness, and distribution. So these are a few glimpses from the events conducted by PBFIA. So here you can see a report launched during our first summit that actually brought together like the entire industry for the first time in the same room. And then we again conducted the second annual edition of the Plant-Based Food Summit this year in the month of May, which was again a great success. And in between these two events, we conducted a conference titled Dawn of a Plant-Based Age, where Honorable Minister of Agriculture actually came and inaugurated the event with his presence. So the second Plant-Based Food Summit actually had various aspects, and it was 3 times grander than the first summit. It had immersive conference, it had exhibition, investor pitch session, plant-based food awards, live chef demo sessions, and B2B meetings. So here are a few glimpses where PBFIA organized events to galvanize the voice of the industry. So the first image you'll see that we actually met Shri Prahlad Singh Patel, who is the Minister of Food Processing Industries of India. And this was the first ever meeting that PBFIA organized with the industry leaders and industry players. And that's how it was like the opening moment for PBFIA, which led to other events after that. And then this is a meeting on the first plant protein cluster that happened in Nagpur. And then there's a members meeting which happened during India Food Forum that we organized. So here we focused on retail sector, where we actually brought in people from Reliance Retail and several other companies who actually helped us to bring our product forward and put it in every retail shelf. Then we also conducted plant-based Navratri campaign that we are again going to conduct starting this October 15th. So it's a 9-day campaign where we connect with institutions, we connect with students, and promote the cause of plant-based foods and bring plant-based foods on their plate. And then here we have a conference organized by RSS, which is Bharatiya Kisan Sangh. You can see that ex managing director of Amul is sitting right beside Sanjay sir. So you can see how much we have entered into this sector, that the biggest player in the dairy sector is sitting right next to the biggest association in the plant-based sector. And then this is the product report launched from Plant-Based Food Summit. So we have also written various letters to the government. We have done various representations to promote entrepreneurship, to promote food safety, to promote India's plant protein cluster, which is a leading project in India to actually create healthy, cost-efficient plant-based ingredients that will actually not only satisfy the need of our ingredients, but will also lead to plant-based nutrition growing not only in India, but globally. So these are a few reports, 5 reports that we have done in collaboration with various knowledge partners such as EY, RENA, the Insight Partners, FMI, and Plant-Based Foods Association from USA. So you can access these reports from our website. And last but not the least, we are already planning and working on our 3rd annual Plant-Based Food Summit. And we have come up with a tentative date, which is 21st of May. So I suggest you all block your calendars and look forward to your active participation in that event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Narahari. Just a correction there. That is not the tentative date. It is the date which we have finalized, and we have gone to various countries also to invite people on 21st of May. So kindly block your calendar for 21st of May. We have booked the venue as well. And so as we all are celebrating the success of women for the Women Reservation Bill in the Parliament, and in that spirit, I would like to first invite Ruchika Sharma, who has been part of the senior team of Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Now she is a consultant and also a personal friend of mine. Ruchika, you're most welcome to kickstart today's discussion as to how do we crack the subject of safe food for the startups so that the deal is not broken. Over to you, Ruchika.
Thank you so much, Sanjay, for such a warm introduction. And I feel so good to see all the lovely faces today. Unfortunately, there is an issue with my camera, so I can't switch on my video. But I'm very happy to see that there is a house full of people today. And it's fortunate that we are touching upon a very, very important subject, because food safety is something which is perennial to the whole ecosystem. And if we are talking about food today, whosoever is associated with food ecosystem, it is our responsibility to collectively and sharedly talk about this topic. And thanks, Nahari, for such a comprehensive presentation to give an overview and understanding about the PBFI and what are the recent activities which are happening, because it has really helped me to get back on the track and sort of understand what are the key priorities of the association. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ruchika, and like Sanjay mentioned, I've been on the senior leadership team with FSSAI. I had spent a lot of time working very closely in the organization, and I had looked at various issues, various departments, and having my expertise and years of experience into branding, content creation, marketing, and media buying, I have significantly spent a lot of time with each and every vertical within FSSAI. So with that experience and expertise over my career, I'm going to talk about very important basics of food safety today, because often we've said that we as businesses or entrepreneurs get so occupied dealing with operational issues in our day-to-day course of business. And the simple aspects of food safety, or how to manage various such aspects, particularly with authorities, tends to get missed out sometimes. So my talk will mostly be focusing around the basics of food safety and how it is being done. I'm sure we have a good line of speakers who are more experts and who are subject matter people, and they'll tell you more about what exactly and how you should make sure that you touches upon each and every aspect of food safety. Uh, while we've seen that the world is rapidly changing, and as we've seen that complex food chains are becoming globalized and localized, new production and delivery methods are emerging in the market. We've seen that lots of new products are being formulated, lots of new kinds of innovative products are now into the ecosystem, and that's why we've seen that food chains are becoming increasingly tech driven. While this has opened doors to new innovations and R&D formulations, it has also led to some issues pertaining to safety of food, and we've seen that these issues are also surfacing. Some of the examples Nahar is also shown to us in his presentation. Now, while this is an important issue, but having said that, this has also led to an important door which is being opened to us. And over the last couple of years, I've seen there are lots of interesting companies and startups surfacing who are building safety tools with respect to new testing methods, rapid testing kits and equipments, improved technology to track what is happening across the whole food value chain. And this very much change has advocated the changing landscape of our country particularly. And today, this reminds me of golden words said once by the chairperson of FSSAI, Srimati Rita Toyotia, and she said that food, because it is very, very essential to our life, and that's why it is not just the responsibility of a regulator, it is equally a responsibility of everybody who is involved into the entire food ecosystem to ensure that the safe and nourishing food becomes the right of every citizen. And this really stuck me because it helped me realize that it is not just a regulator who is supposed to look at various aspects of food safety through enforcement or through any of the regulatory measures, but being citizens, being advocates, being businesses, we also need to make sure that we play our equal role to ensure that together whatever we produce or whatever we deliver to consumers is safe. And with these words, I would like to spend a couple of minutes today to focus on some of the important aspects of food safety. While they are very, very simple, but they're very, very important for each of us to associate with the food system and to understand how we can take simple steps to ensure that we have a better licensing with government authorities, or we ensure that the better enforcement is there with respect to the visits by the food safety officers or the designated officers at your premises. Now, businesses need to ensure that all the regulations decided or designed by the food regulators are diligently followed as to create a safer food environment in the country. And the very, very basic step is to ensure that every business who is involved in the food sector should have a valid FSSAI registration or a license, depending upon the scale and size of your operations. For instance, if your turnover is less than 12 lakhs, you need to go for a registration. If you have a turnover above that, you need to go for a license. What kind of a license is required? So that understanding is very, very important, because this is the very, very first and basic step to ensure that you care about food safety, and whatever you're producing, you need to intend that it reaches to the consumers safely. Now, often businesses are very diligent with respect to the other operational areas. However, in most of the cases, we have seen that all of you rely on an external agency or an external source for licensing with government authorities, and that particular thing really is an impediment to get a proper understanding of various regulatory concepts. And these concepts are very, very important, and hence, if you within your organization start focusing and dwelling and putting little more focus on licensing yourself with government authorities, making sure that you utilize you utilize the layers which are being provided to you, or the ecosystem which is available to you, and make sure that ecosystem is reliable. I think that really helps to sort of surface that issue with the regulatory authorities. Now, with changing needs and preferences, today production, distribution and retail lines are all getting blurred. businesses are producing somewhere, they are distributing from some other country, and the retail is happening in some other country, and this has actually blurred different lines of production, distribution, and retail across boundaries. And managing the complex regulatory structures of various importing and exporting nations definitely vary from one country to other. But I think if we bottle down and if we ensure that the simpler practices to ensure basic checkpoints are there in place, that is most relevant in today's age, because whatever are the broader rules and regulations from one nation to other, the basic checkpoints always remain same with respect to ensuring food safety and with respect to ensuring that you focus on larger aspects of enforcement and larger aspects of ensuring that you maintain and particularly focus on each and every regulation which are being set by any particular nation. Now, typically with respect to the Indian regulatory environment, let us focus today on some of the important areas. And I think while some of you must be aware of these, like Sanjay said, this is a collaborative move, and let's together uh, understand and learn and collectively ensure that we follow at least these basic principles, because if we follow these basic principles, a lot of work is done on its own. So, like I said, number one, you have to make sure that you have a valid license or registration for your business. This is the first and basic step towards being compliant. And now, if you need to get more understanding of various kinds of licenses, registrations, what kind of documentation is provided, what do I need to do to get it done, each and every information is available on the FoSCoS portal by FSSAI. It is a new and a redefined tech portal with lot more clarity and easy mechanism for you, so that every business can file their returns directly, every business can apply for their licenses and registrations directly without much hassle and without engaging extra or the third party resources or any external consulting agency. So the process is very, very simplified now. All you need to do is to go to the FoSCoS portal, get yourself a demo of certain videos and the information that we've created already. This will really be a self-starter guide for you to apply for licenses or registrations with FSSAI. Now, number two, you have to follow the Schedule 4 guidelines which are set by FSSAI. Now, Schedule 4 guidelines basically is a concept of FSMS, Food Safety Management System, based on the good manufacturing practices and good hygiene practices by the food businesses during the whole production and post-production cycle. Now, when a food safety officer or a designated officer visit your premises for an inspection or an enforcement, they ask you to have a ready FSMS plan. Now, when you build your or when you make your food safety management system plan, you have to make sure that various aspects of Schedule 4 guidelines are very well incorporated. And these are very, very simple hygienic requirements that you need to have the good manufacturing practices at your premises, you need to have good hygienic practices at the environment, how the basic environment looks like, what kind of measures are being employed to ensure the safety of food during the production and post-production cycle. So preparing your FSMS plan is always helpful, because that gives an indication to the regulatory bodies that you are very, very careful and particular about ensuring that you follow all Schedule 4 guidelines. So I always say and urge to all food businesses, and especially to the new age businesses, that have your FSMS plans ready, because one, that this is a Bible for you, and at the same time this will also help you to have a better navigation with respect to the inspection and enforcement done by the food safety officers. Now, number three, you need to have a trained food safety supervisor under the food safety training certification program of FSSAI. A lot of food businesses till today date are not aware of this FoSCoS training, FoSTaC training program. FoSTaC is Food Safety Training and Certification Program. It is basically a program done by the government of India that helps all the food businesses to be trained with the basic principles of food safety. And it is mandatory to have one trained food safety supervisor, over 25 food handlers, And as your production cycle gets complex, it is very, very important that each and every food handler within your organization is trained under FoSTac. Now, you must be wondering, why should I get a FoSTac certificate? Why it is important? So, like I said, that it is not just a responsibility of the regulator to keep checking on you, to keep inspecting you, or put enforcement matrix on you, that like a sword is hanging on your head every time. It is also a shared responsibility, and businesses who look at these things, prepare their schedule for guidelines and prepare their FSMS plan, who have their trained food safety supervisors, they always get an edge when the inspection or the enforcement is happening at the state level. Because the state food machinery has been directed that if you see, if in any organization, if any premises, food safety training is not done, handlers are not trained, they are not following proper schedule for guidelines, then there are repercussions to that. Then there are certain issues or challenges which happen. So if you do that, I think it is very, very important. One, you get more understanding about the food safety concepts. And number two, each and every food handler in your premises is also well trained and understand basic concepts of food safety. Now, how do you get this done? FSSAI has created an online portal. This is called FoSTaC, Food Safety Training and Certification Portal. You can go to that portal. You can look at various kinds of trainings happening across the country. There is a training calendar which is already available, and then accordingly you can enroll your food handlers under that program. And once you get one trade food safety supervisor for 25 handlers, that is enough, and that FSS can further train other handlers in the organization. So that's why training about the food safety concepts is very important. And once you are trained under FoSTac, you get the certification which is valid for 2 years. And then there are refresher courses and programs available. Now, it is believed that food safety is a shared responsibility, and I reiterate this statement again and again. Regulators alone cannot ensure the same, and it is required by the food businesses to follow certain practices at their level, so that there is a reduced level of enforcement and regular inspections. Now, there are countries, and I've gone to a couple of the countries, and I've seen that they've introduced rating systems for food businesses, especially restaurants, hotel chains, cloud kitchens, and with this rating, when it is there on the door of these premises, they reflect that there's a good rating and there is a better trust from consumers as well as authorities. And on the similar lines, FSSAI has also initiated a rating concept. It is called Hygiene rating. This rating has been initiated by FSSAI with the intent of ensuring that consumers make informed choices while eating out. So, because we're talking about food safety, because we're talking about that at the end of the whole food ecosystem, whatever goes to the consumer should be safe and hygienic. And that is the major stress of this hygiene rating. Now,
so Ruchika, on the rating, we can talk later because the time is running out. So if you can wrap up quickly, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. I just have 5 minutes to do. That's it.
No,
Now,
1 minute.
if there are
1 minute, not 5.
Okay, sure. With more concepts around hygiene ratings, obviously you can let me know and I can discuss more in detail later. Now, there's particularly one thing which I would like to focus before I close. There's a growing preference for vegan today, and since all of us are talking about plant-based food ecosystem, it is very, very important to also ensure that the vegan food regulations are clearly decoded, and just to have release more complexities in the minds of the businesses, there was a need for the vegan regulations, and these regulations are now out to protect the authenticity of vegan foods with respect to the right packaging, labeling, and marketing. And if you are into the plant-based food industry, you should certainly be urged to have a deeper understanding of the vegan regulations, why these regulations are there, what you need to do if you're an importer, what kind of certifications are compulsory. Each and every information is there on the website. And if there are more concerns, there are more issues, you need more clarity, you can let Sanjay know, and we can certainly have more discussions maybe some other time. But like I said, food safety is important wherever you are, whatever stage of food business you are. If you are a part of the ecosystem, following these basic and simple steps are perennial, and I think together, if we ensure that we follow these basic steps, we can certainly sail through, and we can certainly have a better food ecosystem with respect to safety and health. And thank you, Sanjay, and pleasure for having me here today. And over to you, and I look forward to have more discussions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yoshika, for providing this great information. And I really admire the kind of information that you have shared and the kind of work that FSSAI does. And when we go to sleep, we always thank FSSAI for being there and ensuring that safe food is delivered. And I now request Deepak Jolie to kindly come in. Deepak has been a senior food professional for more than 3 decades and part of very large organization. So if Deepak, you can switch on your.
Okay.
And I also have a question to you, Deepak. That recently we have been on a competition with the dairy industry for the nomenclatures, and somehow we failed to convince FSSAI that dairy terms like milk, soy milk, or millet milk in a year, like millet milk, we are not allowed to use the word millet milk. So these terms should be allowed to us, and we could not convince them. And they came out with a standard for which they asked for 5,000 rupees from every product, which was easy for the startups, but then they increased it to 25,000 rupees for every product. So, and the way the whole thing was unfolding, so there was a very small section, but that section felt that this vegan standards is favoring the large organizations more, who already know, how the safe food is delivered, and startups are not being supported here. And you have been part of big organization, and you know how this game plays out. You know how these new regulations are brought out, and before that, safety meets them, and then there is a consultation, and somewhere the startups feel that their voice is not heard when it came out to the vegan standard. So the standard is in fact indirectly discouraging the industry and helping only the large companies. So when you speak, Deepak, also please touch upon this issue as how you see this and what we should do as PBFID. And thank you for mentioning us during the minister meeting yesterday in CIA. Thank you. Over to you, Deepak.
Thank you, Sanjay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, but there's a little bit of echo because you are in a room, and probably if you go near the computer or if you lift the computer and bring it closer to your mouth, that will be the best.
You will get my video from this one. Just switch on.
Yes, if you want, in the meantime.
My mic is on. Oh, wait a minute.
While you set it up, in the meantime, I can very quickly request Ajay Kakra to come in. Ajay, can you please come in and give your brief comments on the food system? You have been a very high performing professional in the food and agriculture industry, and also a consultant, and now you are the investor. So a very short time of 5 minutes while Deepak sets up his computer, if you can kindly come in. Thank you.
So thanks, Sanjay, and congratulations to you and the team for organizing this event. Happy to be a part of it. So, and thanks for introducing me. I'll directly come to the points. I mean, what I believe food safety systems and food safety, how it is important for specifically for companies and specifically for the startups, because I'm dealing more in the startup ecosystem now. So this has been my experience that, in India per se, whether it is a startup or a fully mature company, I'll give some statistics. Around 40 to 60% of them do not have food processing as a priority. When you ask them what are your first priorities to improve your company, to improve your businesses, food processing, food safety comes little down. So it is like after 4 or 5 things, the top 4 or 5 is like all financials. And this is more prominent. This trend is more prominent when you talk of startups. Because for them, I mean, establishing a business is a very heavy priority. Food safety and aspects related to that take a backseat. But as rightly said by Ruchika there, that yes, this is a very important thing. And I also agree that there needs to be a lot of awareness in this ecosystem. Why food safety is important and what are the implications of not having proper food safety management systems. Food safety management systems, we all hear it, but only mid-sized and large companies are having dedicated teams for implementing, monitoring, and improving their food safety management systems. So if you talk of large corporates, probably they have, but when you talk of mid corporates or the startups, they really do not look at it from that lens. And when you look at the implications of why food safety should be there, system should be there, I believe that yes, this has an implication across. I mean, if even if you're not a larger brand, but it will be having a great implication starting right from your sourcing part. Sourcing, when you are talking of multi-level, multi-graded sourcing, where you're sourcing different ingredients from different geographies, from different suppliers. And if your food, products are having this kind of supply chain, complex supply chains, which has 5, 6, 7, or more than 3 levels of suppliers, then it becomes very important for you to at least have a visibility of the supply chain to that level from a food safety angle. Because, if something goes wrong, then at least you should be able to track and trace where exactly something has gone wrong and to minimize your losses. Because one batch that you bring out for a finished good might have ingredients from 10 different suppliers, 3 different levels of suppliers. It's very important for you to keep a track and trace of those things. And when it comes to implication, it has also got financial implication. It can impact your business. It can impact your brand. It can impact your individual credibility. And also it can, route you out of the market. So that awareness needs to be there. And from a investment perspective, we believe that companies who develop these systems earlier on, who are monitoring it on a regular basis, who are having specific systems to implement in their companies for monitoring as well as measuring the food safety, those are rated higher because they would also be following certain procedure for maybe for sustainable sourcing also. They would be having systems for traceability of their products. And that's something which gives them an edge because your products might be same, but in case you have these systems in place, maybe traceability in place or sustainable sourcing you're doing, you are exactly aware of how your business is happening at a level which has very low visibility to you. So most of the companies, what they do is they have the systems, they measure all sorts of checks and balances when they're doing the manufacturing part, which is their factory part. But when it comes to before that sourcing part, it goes slowly, it starts declining, and at a certain point it is zero. They have no idea where material is coming from, what material is coming from, and they have no, system for checking the quality at that level. Yes, it has cost implications, but there can be systems and process which can actually optimize your cost, and you can still monitor it. Now techniques, tools have actually come up. You just have to enroll your suppliers and they can, they can tell about the quality part and it can be outsourced also. So my view is that, so I'll just conclude, just give me 1 more minute, is that food safety is very important, very critical to success of a company, whether it is a startup or it is a mid-size or a large corporate. And I believe that as we go ahead in the future, the food safety will become prominent, and as Indian corporates grow for export and they actually start capturing larger global markets, this will become even more important. I'll stop here, Sanjay.
Okay, thank you so much, Ajay. I think it was very crisp and quick comment there, and I always listen to you carefully, and you have been one of the amazing thinkers in the food and egg space for now more than 2 decades. And thank you for your time and continue to support our startups. Very quickly requesting Nimish Shah from Unilever to come in. And I hope Deepak computer is also set up, so both of them will take 5 minutes each. Nimish, you would like to come first? I think Nimish is not ready, so Deepak, you can come.
Yeah, sure, I can come in. Thank
Okay,
you.
Great.
Sanjay and
Nimish from Unilever.
Pleasure
Director,
to be.
Yes, so let me introduce Nimish. Nimish Shah is the Director Regulatory Affairs for Unilever for whole of South Asia. Welcome, Nimish.
Thank you. Pleasure to be on this forum. Thanks, Sanjay, for inviting me. I really feel that something that I also echoed at the CII conference earlier in the year is that the plant-based foods and the interest in this is coming primarily from 3 drivers working together simultaneously. One is love for animals. Secondly, the thing about greenhouse gas associated with animal-based foods, and thirdly, also the fact that plant-based foods are in fact and also perceived to be healthier as compared to animal-based food. So all these 3 kind of coming together at a certain point in time has led to this huge interest and demand in plant-based foods. And in the context of food safety, I would like to touch upon a couple of aspects wherein we need to set up capabilities and going ahead, spread the capacity through the country. And those 2 aspects, in my view, are the things relating to microbiological safety and aspects relating to potentials of sensitization and or allergenicity with this. And why I say this is that, in the manner in which vegan and plant-based foods are coming up, they are really, it is no longer that when we are talking of plant-based foods, we are talking of our dal chawal, right? We are really talking about a certain plant protein being either concentrated and transformed through processing into a new form that tries to mimic that animal protein that it is replacing many a times, right? And in doing that, we have to really characterize how this new sort of a form or that physical material, how it represents in the context of the microenvironment to the microorganisms. The hazards associated with the animal foods that this food is replacing has been known for several decades. Yeah, how microorganisms look at this material as a substrate and what are their growth rates, what are the hurdles that might prevent their growing, how new pathogens could become, get into the human health system through these plant-based foods and the processing. These are some of the questions that we need to ask. I mean, from the innovation point of view, from the food security point of view, all these things are absolutely promising. But I think these are some of the questions we need to answer. And I'm not trying to kind of scare people, but I'm saying that science for these newer materials, how they have been processed, how their structuring is happening, what it represents to the microbial pathogen system is something that needs to be definitely considered. Also, given the processing, is there any additional hazard that are coming in from the point of view of, say, allergenicity, sensitization, etc.? That also needs to be studied. And while that is also happening, I think India, given that it is a food basket for the world, and plant foods are really, really big in India. So therefore, we will also be doing exports. So this capacity and capability development is to be accelerated so that we continue to be that leader in foods systems for the world, and also, take it's an opportunity for India to leapfrog in this area then. So that would be a couple of things that I would like to bring up to this forum.
Thank you so much. So I believe Deepak is coming back. Deepak, are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, great. So continue, please.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me. As you are aware that, when we presented at CII last night, this was to the Secretary Rajesh Singh, that what is the future of the processed food industry? And what is the vision for 2030? What is the vision for 2047? So let me tell you, this is indeed a sunrise industry. And as a sunrise industry, I can only say there are a few things which the government has to accept, that look, the way we have regulated the food industry, we will have to take a different way to enact and control and regulate. It's not going to be the same. If you want to go, we grew at, say, in last 2 years, 14% CAGR. But if you want to grow on the same CAGR rate, compounded annual growth rate, you need certain laws, you need a certain new products, new categories, new ingredients, which have not been tried before. So as the chairman of the Indian Food and Beverage Association, IFBA, we've been trying to take large and small and medium-sized startups, companies together. And let me give you some very heartening news. We went in for regulation of basmati rice in India, which was unregulated. The standard we pushed for the first time. And, we were very happy that the standards came out and were notified on the 1st of August. Now, the problem is, even if the standards have been notified, who is going to control it? Is the food regulator across the country well versed with the new laws? Answer is no. So there's a lot of internal exercise which FSSAI has to do. And we partnered with FSSAI under Eat Right campaign, and we decided to do an awareness campaign on the new basmati regulations. So this apparently has been a great idea which permitted, we moved to 5 cities, and we realized that the food commissioner in each place, each capital of the state, has taken this new standard very seriously. Now, Sanjay, you spoke about, almond milk, soy milk. This is a subject which we have been pushing, for a while. And it needs awareness that what is soy milk, what is, because, you are not working with one ministry. There is a dairy and animal husbandry. They put in a law that any product which is imported from anywhere in the world under milk protein will have to have a vegetarian certificate from their governments. Let me tell you, we live in a global system. It's, when you're dealing with 30 countries of EU and then US, Canada, etc., the world will not behave like us. There are global standards. There are global mechanisms to control. So what is important is to understand the Indian law, create as much as possible a direct fusion between the global laws and the Indian laws. Now, Codex is a perfect formula in which, all the new formulation, products, ingredients have to be notified. So one thing which I've seen is FSSAI listens to everyone. The change may take a while, but it's a question of how your voice is heard, how your voice is collectively heard. So let me give you some of my experiences. And I would say that today, the process of, pitching in is, there is a CAC meeting which happens once in a quarter. for FSSAI, where all the regional leaders meet. So the process of notifying, process of putting that together, it's a year-long process. It doesn't. There are testing methodologies, etc., etc. So I think what plant-based food, have to make sure that your food safety is paramount, is a part of your DNA. It's not about just innovation. It's what the ingredient has gone in, how are the various factors which are playing at the launch. Each and every part has to be tested. Look, I worked, Nimesh from Unilever was there. I was the head of, I used to be in Unilever from 88 to 95. And believe it or not, there were so many products which we launched ahead of time. We launched frozen peas way back in the 60s, Hima peas. We again launched Green Valley peas. But till the time the supply chain and safety angle was not made sure that my consumer will get a safe product, we withdrew it. But these are large companies, and again, I'm talking to startups, and let me tell you, I started my advocacy company at just 6 years back after an experience with Coke, Pepsi, Unilever. So what I can just add value here is, I think your communication, your labeling, your legal metrology has to be perfect, because at the end of the day, there are things which are happening, what we call as food fraud. There is, I'm also the Secretary General of the India Honey Alliance. One of the biggest allegations of honey is that some manufacturers may have added sugar. Now, the point is, you can't paint the industry with one brush. So what happens is, why are the others doing well, and why some have been accused of putting sugar? Similarly, there are companies where, when they made juice-based products, they called it an apple juice. So they called it a juice which was of a juice drink, which was called pineapple flavor. But when they added juice, they added the cheapest concentrate of juice, which was apple, and they added a pineapple flavor. Now, when the regulators come to know, slowly but surely, they come and say, "Boss, your ingredient was, you said conveniently, fruit juice, but apple juice was the cheapest, so you added that as a part of a milk and a juice product." So one has to be very, very careful in doing that. I know this will hamper your speed. So my advice to plant-based food companies is as follows: make sure that from farm to fork, you have a safe measure. Nimesh spoke about it, but I can tell you something where we have looked at, is the raw material checked 3-4 times before you process it. At 3-4 ends, you have to make sure that the safety element comes in very critically. And then during process, then during the end. Let me give you one example. I would not name the company, but I would just tell you, there was a startup company which was making oregano. And a large pizza company came under fire because the oregano they made had developed some kind of ants in the small pack. And what happened was, the small company came to me, and when we looked at the food safety aspect, we realized that there could be only at 3 places this oregano could have gone wrong. One, at the manufacturing. Did they have a good GMP? Second, when the pizza is being sold at a 40-degree plus, this oregano was exposed to the 40-degree plus temperatures. Did it happen at the production site where the oregano was exposed for many hours to 40-45 degree temperature? And third, as people say, it could be a consumer who would have gone and said this product had something, and the consumer had a false accusation. Stored and correct. So, and of course, the storage part. Storage is very critical. Let me tell you, I've been in Hindustan Lever and I have gone to the shops and they have kept a surf pack next to a rice pack. Let me tell you, there is that what you call detergent smell had gone into the rice pack. So are you doing all the processes of selling which are right? I think these are a few points because I've headed operations of venturing and emerging brands of Coke. So for me, launching a new brand was very, very sensitive. I had to make sure that this storage part, the logistics part, is taken care of. I advised Yoga Bar, 6 years back, and I must say, they have come out with flying colors. The Sampath sisters, they have sold their Yoga Bar right now to ITC, and the deal has just been completed. But the point is, how much struggle they had to get the product for 6 months shelf life. I know that. And that is a lesson to all the plant-based food companies, because I know that in the zest people launch it, but many times the GMP part, which is so rigorous in multinational companies, has to apply to the new companies as well. So Sanjay, my 2 cents here, while you ask the question of about the use of milk at the it will take a while. Use of word milk in plant-based. Yeah. So the use of word milk in plant-based food, the regulator will need a very combined sensitization, and as IFBA, we are ready to support that. I know you have been at it, but there is, with the help of Niti Aayog, with the help of Commerce Ministry, and believe it or not, the DHAD, the Department of Animal Husbandry, will have to be very critical in this entire part, and I'm sure they will accede to this request at some point of time. On that note, any questions, Sanjay, from your side?
Yeah, that's it. I think it has been great, Deepak, and we have now almost 45 minutes and 5 more speakers. So I immediately go to Sagar. Sagar from Vegan Dukan is not just a businessman, he is a social activist also. He has been leading the entire discussion with the dairy industry, and that too in the presence of lawyers and judges, that how these standards are not making sense. I mean, India is making a mockery of its name internationally by coming with such absurd idea of that we cannot call it soy milk, which we have been calling since last 20 years. So suddenly, no, आपका नाम बदल गया है, आपका नाम आज से संजय नहीं है, आपका नाम राजेश है. It's not possible, right? हमारा नाम अगर सोय मिल्क है तो सोया मिल्क ही रहेगा ना, right? ये सोया बेवरेज या something else कैसे हो सकता है? सागर, please throw some light on this.
Thank you, Sanjay sir, and thanks everyone. Nice to have this session today. So today, I'll share what experience we have about specifically vegan endorsement. Now, the business which I represent, we are exclusively actually a platform for selling vegan products, and that's where this compliance became much more important for us to understand. And also because we are a marketplace where close to 300 brands are selling their products, and close to 50-60 brands which are like focused on dairy and meat alternates, it became very, very crucial for them to understand when FSSAI, came with some circular where, all the marketplaces or all the companies which are actually calling themselves, selling their products, calling them vegan, has to stop doing it until unless they go through, some stringent measures and processes, they have laid out. It's been now a couple of years, and the latest learning what we have, I would like to, share from there. Still, I would suggest that, best way to learn all these things would be, to go to the resources what FSSAI has already put across internet for everybody to use. And this is a gist of it. Some portion which would be more crucial for us to focus on when we think about launching our product with vegan endorsement. So yeah, thank you, Medha, for sharing the slide. So first is any company, like whoever is looking to launch their product, they have to take a call that why would they really want to call it as vegan, or they just want to keep it as plant-based. Medha, can you go to the next slide? So basically, it's a very much subjective call brands has to take, that whether that product is going to be immediately start being circulated and distributed across India or multiple sales channel. So that can be one parameter to look at it, because there is investment, upfront investment involved to call our product vegan, and there's a process involved which can be but time taking. Second is the brand positioning, that if we are very sure that how we want to brand our product. If we want to call it, clearly vegan, then it definitely makes sense for us to go through that process, which will cost us, but our brand positioning is also very much clear to the consumers. So there are 2 points which we feel that people need to consider while launching their product. Now, talking about FSSAI, now what we have felt, FSSAI has been selective in sending the notices to the brands, to the businesses about the circulation, and asking them to take down those products and stop selling them, or changing the way their packaging is. Because we also sell a few products on large marketplaces, and there was no repercussion. There was no notice coming from their side. And whereas we got the notice, or there are few vegan businesses in our ecosystem whom personally I know, they were given multiple notices. So that is where you also you need to get lucky as well, just in case you have missed out following the compliances. But now when somebody is thinking about launching it, we need to be very clear that let's not not do anything which is non-compliant with the rules right now, because there's now absolute clarity. Whatever we feel that we like it or not, but there's a clarity what FSSAI has now brought in front of us. So till we come on the same stage, it is always right to do as per what recommendations and guidelines are given. So that's it. We'll just go through what is the process to get the vegan endorsement. So right now the fees was different earlier, in earlier circular, but now they have hiked the fees to 25,000 rupees per product, and it doesn't only end there. Once you pay that fees, after that, there are 3-step process where we fill up the form A, which is called, where we fill up our basic details, but we also have to start listing each and every ingredient, and those ingredients, source of the ingredients are also very much important to mention, and detailed manufacturing process of the final product. Now, this, so far in my learning, we have never seen this happens with vegetarian or non-vegetarian product. These kind of things are never asked. But these things are actually put in the process. But one is the money investment. Second is we have to go at length to explain what we are doing. And then there is a technical specification of certification of analysis, which in each and every ingredient which are put in the product, we have to go to the root of it. the suppliers have to certify. Also, suppliers have to endorse that these products are vegan. So it's a very lengthy process here, and then there are different rules if it is a imported product or it is domestically produced. Um, so this can cost anything between 10 to 20,000 rupees. When we have to do this physical, chemical, and microbiological testing, which is also still not very clear. We have discussed this matter with topmost laboratories in India, and they still don't have any idea. But how we can understand these tests are, they are something very similar to the COVID test what we used to have. These are very similar kind of tests we need to do for our product, so they can identify if there is any animal origin microorganism present in the food product. So it's a huge investment, and that's where we need to go back to those 2 points, whether our product is going to be largely circulated or our brand positioning, which is very important for us. So we have to take a call based on that. Another part what FSSAI is also mentioned that if the product is certified by any third party, then that looks like it is allowed, but there is no list of any third parties over there. So that probably they can get back if we inquire with them. Let me go next. So once we fill the form A with all the details which was mentioned there, and then they will go ahead and they will evaluate our application with all the test results and everything, and they will approve or reject it. And there is also a process. If it gets rejected, then we can escalate, and there is a process for that. And then last is self-declaration, where if we get approval, and this is the process which I could understand from the circular they have given, that next would be, if we get the approval, then we have to also certify that we are assuring that these products are non-animal origin, and we will stick to whatever best practices, the mandatory practices by FSSAI, and we would be compliant. And if in case if our product pose any kind of health risk, then we would be we would immediately take the action to take the product back. So this kind of self-declaration is also important at the end of this process. Now, only thing which we can see is so far food industry in India has been working on self-declaration, whether it is French fries or chips or any kind of processed or unprocessed products. People put their FSSAI license number, and that is where the accountability is clearly established. But here only for vegan endorsement, we see there is a very, very special treatment given. So yeah, I think that's what it's all about. And the last one is they have also given very nice FAQ circular where they clearly mentioned that where we need to do we need to apply for vegan certification and where we need not. So for example, if commodities are there, like any kind of rice or wheat or any kind of unprocessed foods or least processed foods like oil or atta or something like that, there we need not to apply for vegan certification. That means that we can straight away start using it, but it is not mentioned like that very much explicitly. But it looks like it means like that. If somebody has still gone ahead and paid the fees, it would not be refundable, is also they have mentioned. Another thing is if we change the packet size like 200 grams, 500 grams, no separate application is required. So it would be under the same investment what we have done. And in case we change the ingredients, like we change the sugar level, we increase the salt or something like that, but if the number of ingredients stays same, then there is no need to apply for a fresh FSSAI license. Where it is needed, if the food, so kind of rule of thumb is if the food is processed or proprietary, then we should understand that yes, here it would be required. So that is where for example, it can be some flavored yogurt, for example, which we want to sell, like or it can be some kind of milks, or it can be any kind of mock meat we are launching, which will have number of ingredients. So that is where it would be required to go through this process. And even if your products are made in different manufacturing facilities, then each and every facility will has to go through same process. So the investment will multiply by the number of units where it is manufactured. And same goes for flavors as well. If it is chocolate flavor, it is strawberry flavor. Each and every flavor will come with its own investment. Another interesting thing which they have come up with now is earlier meat products were not part of this. Earlier it was only about dairy, but now even vegan, we cannot associate vegan name with meat as well, egg as well. It is very clearly mentioned in the FAQs. So vegan meat or veg meat or maybe plant-based egg powder, we cannot use those things. Is also is there in the guideline. And so far, there is so there is so far no mention of plant-based. So plant-based can still be used somewhere because it is not mentioned. I just mentioned earlier, plant-based egg powder, that would be wrong. Plant-based, it still looks safe terminology to use here. Just during one conversation with FSSAI officer, he said that if any product has more than 50% plant-based ingredients, then we can call it plant-based. So there is no clear-cut guidelines for that. So if we don't have budget or we don't want to spend on this right now, I think it is safe to use plant-based as our like not endorsement, I would say, but as a brand position and some kind of logo we can create with plant-based. There is one more thing. We were quite optimistic that FSSAI has long back they have mentioned about something like analogs as well, and under that we would get approval for all these products. But my understanding from the FAQs are they are contradicting their own definition. And the analog definition, as I read, means a product in which constituents not derived from milk take the place in part or in whole of any milk constituents, and the final product resembles organoleptically and or functionally milk or milk products or composite milk products as defined in these regulations. So even if any product which does not have which is not derived from milk, or it has even partial part of it, and it works as milk, then it should be analog. But that's what actually all these products are doing. Let it be soya milk, almond milk, and all. That's what they are doing. They are working as a good replacer for milk, but still they are not allowing. And this is very, very selective use of the definition, which we can see. And I'm very much open to learn if my understanding is wrong in this. And they're very clear that vegan endorsement means nothing is coming from all the animals which they have listed, and also in ingredient list or in the processes, or as a supportive process or enzymes, there should not be any animal products. So it is little tricky right now. I think we should form a very good logic behind it, and formally we should request FSSAI to help us understand their standpoint, and if they can also understand what we are trying to do, and we can have a level playing ground, because it's a business, and it takes a lot of money to get customers and to educate customers. So that's where we really need to have to form a very good logic to represent our case. That's it from my side. Thanks a lot. And sir, just couple of resources which I have used, and they actually take care of all those understanding which we need to keep. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sagar. I think those were insights that I believe there's a collection of documents which you've summarized into these 3-4 slides, and I'm sure people are going to come to this recording and keep looking at it again and again. So you, like Sir mentioned, you've been doing a lot of work in this segment, and Sir is also closely in touch with FSSAI. So we'll keep supporting the industry in this side. Sir, would you like to say anything?
Yes, continue with it.
All right. Okay. So thank you, Sagar. Now we'll move on to the next speaker, Dr. Keshav from CCL Products, also Continental Greenbird. So he is the head of research there, and CCL Products has been around since 1994. So they have tons and tons of experience, which Dr. Keshav will share with us. So earlier they were into coffee, and now they've ventured into plant-based food products. So we are sure that there'll be a lot that we can learn from their experience, their insights, not only in India, but being a global brand. So over to you, Dr. Keshav.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Aditi, for that excellent introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to express my thankfulness to Sanjay sir and
Keshav, I just wanted to say you're looking great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my perspective on food safety in plant-based foods. I'll mainly focus on the fundamental aspects of food safety, as previous speakers have already addressed regulatory aspects and various other aspects. So I'll touch upon mainly the basic aspects of food safety. Let me present my slide. Oh, just a second. Oh.
Are there any issues with the?
Yeah, no. Just a second. Can you see my presentation? Hello.
Yes, we can. If you can move it to full screen, I think that will be helpful.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. This is our brand, Greenbird. Okay. So before we begin, enter into the main topic, I would like to first thank you very much for giving me this opportunity once again. So all our previous speakers spoke mainly about the regulatory aspects, but I would like to focus and confine myself to the practical aspects of the food safety, the risk factors associated with plant-based foods, because especially the plant-based meat analogs or plant-based dairy analogs, they are made up of multiple ingredients. We use mainly different additives. Although we will be using plant proteins as a main component, but we'll be using so many other ingredients like additives, stabilizers, flavoring agents, flavor enhancers, and emulsifying agents. So many things we will be using, and the risk factors can come from different raw materials. So first, a significant portion of the risk factors may migrate into the finished product right from the raw materials. So the risk factors that you can expect right from your raw material. Sorry. So what are the potential risk factors that we can see from the raw materials? The mainly endogenous factors like phytohormones, phytoestrogens. Those are present within the plant seeds and plant pods, and also anti-nutritional factors, allergens, and other phytopigments. So these are the endogenous factors, and also exogenous factors. Like, since it is an agro commodity, we can expect contamination from we can expect contamination from the raw material in the form of molds, which can lead to the mycotoxins and aflatoxins. And we can also expect pesticide contamination and pesticide residues and heavy metal contamination. So these are the things that we can expect as risk factors from the plant-based foods. And also when it comes to the processing, so we can also expect many contaminants entering into the process. If you don't have proper system in place, so we may end up having physical hazards, chemical hazards, even biological hazards if we don't have proper systematic systems and procedures in place during the processing of the raw materials. And we can also expect contaminants from uh, uh, packaging area where manual intervention will be there. They may touch, if they don't practice good manufacturing practices and hygiene practices, we may end up having potential health hazards and contaminants from the food handlers. So in order to overcome these challenges and to conquer all these potential risk factors, so what kind of systems should we have in place? Like, so we should be in a position to quickly identify the risk factors. For that, we should have proper detection methods so that we can detect the potential risk factors then and there so quickly so that we can take proper preventive actions. So different, I mean, I think most of our audience are freshers to this industry, and I would like to take a few more minutes to explain about the different uh, risk factors that we encounter during the processing. So biological hazards like pathogens, as I have already mentioned, microbial hazards can be tested using PCR. PCR is a polymerase chain reaction. It is a kit. It's a rapid testing kit with which we can identify the microbial load, and we can also depend on the culture methods, but it will take more time to identify the contamination and bioburden of the products. But we also have rapid testing kits, ATP dependent rapid testing kits, with which we can identify the microbial load within a span of half an hour or so. So we also can test the contaminations by monitoring the indicator organisms. Indicator organisms in the sense, if you come across E. coli or Enterobacteriaceae, then it is an indication that your process has contaminated with sewage. So these kind of tests we can use and can take a quick action from where the contaminants are entering into the process, and we can arrest those things. And coming to the aflatoxin and mycotoxin test, we also have ELISA-based rapid testing kits, and also we can identify with the help of HPLC systems. But HPLC may take more time, but rapid testing kits, you can get results within span of few minutes. And we can also identify the allergens. So allergen testing, it can also be done by ELISA. ELISA is nothing but enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, where you will have it's a kind of lock and key mechanism. Means the enzyme will adhere only to the specific antigen. So that way you can identify the allergens, presence of allergens in the raw materials or in the process. We can also detect allergens by using PCR. So these are all advanced methods where we can immediately notice the risk factors. And contamination during the process, we can have chemical contaminants can be identified by HPLC and inductively coupled plasma mass spectroscopy, hyperspectral imaging. So these are all advanced methods where we can quickly assess the risk factors. And coming to the physical hazards, it's a kind of detection of foreign materials like stones. Since we are using agri commodities in the process, usually we may end up having foreign material like stones, nails, fibers, jute fibers. So all such things can be removed during the process by using metal detectors. You can separate the metal particles. X-ray crystallography or X-ray scanners, we can separate the glass pieces, plastic contamination. So these are the kind of physical contaminants that may enter into the process. And when it comes to the quality procedures, we can have a set of sensory protocols wherein you can detect the taste deviations, color, texture. So all kinds of deviations can be identified during the sensory and also texture analysis. So for that, we have texture analyzing equipment and also calorimeters to test the color of the product, and also the to assess the rheological properties of the products. We can use rheometers, I mean, to assess the viscosity of the product. And when it comes to the, you know that most of these plant-based manufacturers use leg hemoglobin as a to simulate the blood of animal. So leg hemoglobin is again genetically engineered product, which is grown and reaped in yeast cells. So such kind of things we can identify with the help of PCR, again polymerase chain reaction, and also DNA-based methods, which are like genotyping methods, and we can identify the genetically engineered molecules that are present in the product. So these are the methods with the help of which we can take a quick action and prevent the potential risk factors entering into the food chain. And coming to the, so now we have seen the various ways of having the risk factors entering into the food chain. So in order to prevent that, we should develop a robust food safety framework is essential to ensure the safety and quality of the food products. So I have just taken this photograph from the internet. So HACCP, you all know that HACCP is hazard analysis critical control point. It's a systematic approach to prevent the contaminants. So first thing that you are going to do is hazard identification. First, we will do a risk assessment, identify the hazards, and then we'll include lethal processing step or a microbial kill step, what we call it. So most of these plant-based products, they use extruders to get the texture, meat texture, which is similar to the meat. So during that step, we can go up to the maximum temperatures to kill the microbial load, and also pressure. So we can apply temperature and pressure during the processing itself to kill the microbial organisms that are present in the raw materials. And so this is how it works. And people who know about HACCP system, they understand how we can prevent and we can customize this system according to the requirement. So when it comes to the, so here is a comprehensive framework that covers key aspects of food safety. So first thing is we'll have to identify the potential risk factors, maybe biological, physical, chemical. So with the help of this system, we can identify the risk factors in the first stage itself. We'll have to assess the risk and put critical control points. And then next step is preventive controls. So what are the preventive controls? Like say, for example, you can follow the gaps. GAP is nothing but good agricultural procedures. When you are processing your raw materials, you will have to follow certain practices, maybe moisture level of your products, maybe pea or soya. If you maintain the moisture levels and other parameters to the optimum level, we can avoid the microbial growth, and we can also avoid the mycotoxins. So that's how we can avoid and prevent the risk factors entering into the raw materials. And coming to the other practices, GMP, following good manufacturing practices. If you train your staff to how to handle the food and how to take care of the no, safety procedures and how to follow the hygiene standards. So all those things, if you train and establish hygiene procedures that they have to follow in the facility, then you can avoid most of the contaminants entering into the process. And also allergen management. If you have proper allergen management protocols or procedures, then you you can segregate certain products that can have allergen. Say for example, soya itself is considered as an allergen. So when it comes to maintaining the raw materials, you can have a separate storage area where you can store allergen materials. So that's how you can avoid allergens entering into the process.
Dr. Keshav, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. Is it
Yeah.
possible to take this in detail later, if that's okay? As we have a couple of other speakers.
Yeah, that's it. I almost,
Sure.
this is my final slide. So
All right.
these are the different strategies that we can follow. We can have a proper recall system and also traceability system. Once you develop a recall plan and regulatory practice, then it will be easy for you to take timely action. And also, if you have monitoring procedures, nothing but the test methods, what I have already explained in my previous slide. So with the help of test methods, you can prevent the contamination and avoid unnecessary food contamination. And also, the contaminations can come also from cross-contamination, especially if you are processing using the same equipment for different batches, you can also end up having allergens or other contaminants into your product.
Keshav,
Yeah.
the time is actually up.
Yeah, almost
so
up.
On the,
I
just wanted to add on the allergen issue. So there are 9 major allergens, right? So there are many allergens, 9 major allergens, and you mentioned about soy, which is at the 8th number. 9th is the sesame seed, right? But more than this, the fact is that about 1 to 1.5% people are allergic to soy. So we have told all our members that the trivia can be left aside. We have to look at the big picture. The big picture is that we are fighting for our survival, right? So when we are fighting for survival, we have to be very careful that we don't commit any self-goals. So in this particular case, milk is a bigger allergen than soy. Egg is a bigger allergen than soy, and we are not mentioning that. But हम एक दूसरे को पीट रहे हैं because you have come out with a pea-based, kebab
product,
which didn't take off much because of the aftertaste and also things around that. So we don't have to, knock off the soy over there. It's not soy versus pea. It is plant-based versus the animal sources of food. So by writing these things will not help us. So by the way, the time is up. We have
thank you so much, sir.
We have a speaker from US, Apurva Prasanna. Apurva, very welcome to you. You have been a great support to PBFIA, and you represent the best organization, my most favorite organization, and that is Impossible Foods. Apurva, are you ready? So are you in the US right now?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Sanjay.
You are awake. It must be midnight. What's the time over there?
Yes, it's 12:20 a.m. I'm super excited to be here, part of the discussion, even though it's midnight.
and welcome to have a great scientist like Apurva to be part of this conversation. Sorry, you and Abhay Rangan, both of them are my friends, and I put you in the last. And but in 10 minutes, tell us that, a great organization like Impossible, I know you are also full of soy products, so you have not slowed down, whereas Beyond, which is based on pea products, has slowed down. So, so can you tell us how you take care of the, safe food, and how we can work with you in soft land impossible in India, so that all the other startups learn from how you have made impossible possible. So how you have created such amazing products. One thing that we don't want to hear from you is about your innovation about heme, because Indians don't want to see the blood, right? So we don't want to talk about him. We don't want to see him, because in the Western societies, maybe seeing blood in the food, maybe they like it, but Indians don't. So, but we want to really learn from Impossible in many other ways, that how we can make our foods very, very safe. Over to you. Floor is yours.
Yep, sure. Thanks, Sanjay. I know you're a big fan of Impossible, but I just wanted to put a disclaimer out here, since we're talking about food safety challenges and everything related to food safety, that whatever I'm speaking today is strictly my views and not doesn't represent my employer, Impossible Foods. I'm just giving my overall overview and experience based on the food safety related issues with plant-based foods. So, kind of uh, diverging from what question you asked, it's completely my view. So, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Uh, so basically, when we think of plant-based foods, especially the ones that work and mimic animal, we always want functionality which is similar to that of animal. But when it comes to food safety, we need to understand that there are key differences with when we compare animal to plant-based foods. Firstly, it's the source and the origin. We know that animal-based foods like meat and dairy is derived from animals, and plant-based foods is derived from more plant sources. So the type of regulations and guidelines that are applicable and used in each case is different. The second point is the macronutrient distribution. So the type of the fat, carbohydrates, or proteins that's present in animal versus plant-based foods is very different. So because of this, the type of microorganisms that grows and that thrives in each type of food is very different. So this also means that we can't club the same type. We can't club plant-based alternatives under the same guidelines as that of animal, because the type of microorganisms that grow in plant-based foods is very different from that of animal based foods. So therefore, when we talk about the microbial load of spoilage for animal-based foods as so and so numbers, we can't put it under the same category for plant-based foods. It has to be defined separately. So when we look at the pathogen risk for animal-based foods, it seems to be much higher with E. coli, Salmonella, and Campylobacter. When it comes to plant-based foods, to begin with, the initial pathogen risk is much lower, but there could be higher risks due to cross-contaminations, or in case of extrusion, there could be some endospores that has survived the processing. And then with respect to processing, animal foods are processed very differently when we compare to plant-based food or plant-based alternatives. So this could also be another factor. And the cooking and temperature controls in terms of meat and traditional meat and dairy, we know that it's much well established, and we do have specific numbers and guidelines for those. But in case of plant-based foods, it's still a gray area. There isn't like a documented or written guidelines for plant-based foods, how it has to be cooked or it has to be treated. And overall, when it comes to the regulatory oversight with animal-based foods, it's much clear, well established and documented, whereas plant-based foods is still evolving as we are coming up with new products every day. It is difficult to come up with like a blanket guidelines as in case of the animal products. So looking at the major gaps for the plant-based foods, we firstly look at standardization. There isn't a set of standard guidelines very clear for the plant-based foods. It's kind of evolving, like I mentioned, and it's different from one region to another. And there isn't a clear cut guidelines on cross-contamination. So most plant-based foods could be produced in a co-manufacturer, which also makes make animal foods. So there could be some issues of cross-contamination. So how to deal with this when it happens is not clearly outlined in most cases. And then when it comes to temperature controls, we don't know what exact guidelines are applicable. Like mostly consumer tend to overcook the product, thinking that it has to be cooked just like animal, or they think the risk is much lower and undercook, which could also lead to some health issues. And then allergen handling, like most of the speakers before me spoke about it in detail, I'm not going to touch it. And then microbial testing for plant-based foods, there isn't specific testing just for plant-based foods or the type of microorganisms that grow in that type of environment. It's mostly very generic. So we don't have specific microbial safety protocols for plant-based foods, which needs to be still developed. And then supply chain traceability. I know we also touched upon this previously, that since plant-based foods are made up of multiple ingredients, there are many suppliers, many agencies that are involved. So to have a good traceability of these ingredients, if something goes wrong in case of a recall, is very important. And emerging ingredients, since there is so much innovation going around technology and ingredients in the plant-based world, it's even hard for the regulatory agencies to come up with guidelines which can keep up with these rapid emerging trends. So that is another gap. And then educating the consumer is the most important thing. Letting them know how they have to store, treat, cook, and serve their product is very important. And then protocols regarding recall procedures is not super clear when it comes to plant-based foods. It is still that still needs some work. And overall international trade, since there isn't like a well-established guideline and it's not standardized, for international trade for plant-based foods between countries could be a challenge. So those are the main gaps. So in the interest of time, I will just go through the steps that we need to take towards establishing better food safety guidelines for plant-based foods. Firstly, we need to look at the scientific approach to formulation with the type of application and then the specific substrates that we're using. Basically, when we try to formulate a product, we need to think of what ingredients we're using, what type of hurdles it goes through, what type of processing, packaging, and all of those. Ensuring that food safety is at the core of new product development and mainly educating the consumers and basically having extensive research and data on the shelf life, stability, and then food safety of plant-based food products. And then also, I think this is mostly for the regulatory bodies to come up with pathogen detection methods which are more specific for plant-based foods. I think on the whole, to summarize, we as a community need to come together, whether it's the formulators, scientists, regulatory bodies, government agencies, entrepreneurs, all of us together to come up with like better food safety guidelines for plant-based foods. Yep, that's it from my side.
All right. Thank you so much, Apurva. Number one, thank you for joining us from the US. I think it's great to get a global perspective, and the gap that you have covered in terms of comparing animal-based and plant-based, and the gaps that you've identified in the food safety challenges. That was very interesting for all of us to see. So thank you so much. Looking forward to having more conversations with you. And next up, we have Dr. Roshan Khan. She is now an assistant professor at the University of Delhi, and she has previously worked closely with APIDA to define the plant-based foods export standards and quality parameters. So, Dr. Roshan, it is a pleasure to have you here, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I'm really thankful to Sethi sir for this wonderful opportunity once again. Medha, can you please share the slides? Yeah. Okay. So as we know that vegan industry is flourishing and we have a lot to explore, and vegan industry is exploring the international markets also and expanding in the international markets as well. So first of all, I'd like to bring into your kind notice that one of our speakers, Nimesh ji, talked about the three drivers of the plant-based food industry. So I'll also talk about the two main customers which we have in this industry as per as some researchers have been focused upon. So we have these two type of consumers specifically. I'm not able to see my slides. Medha, is it visible to all?
Yeah, I think there's some issue.
Yeah. Yes, fine. Yeah. Just go on to the second page and just, yeah, we are good to go then. Medha, please continue on the second slide.
I've moved on to the second slide. I think there's a bit lag here. Is it possible
Okay.
for you also to share?
Yeah, I'll try. I'm not able to share, I think. Is it visible? Is it visible?
No, not yet.
Okay,
Medha, we
I
can
don't
see your screen, but it's the first slide.
Okay, fine. If you could just switch to the second slide. Just remove that notice. Can you remove that notice, Megha? Yeah. Fine. It is fine. It's fine. I think so. We have two types of customers in the market. As far as some researchers have been, we are doing some researches in the vegan industry, especially, and the people who are like purchasing the plant-based food products. So we have the sustainers, and on the other hand, we have the strivers. So the sustainers are the people who are basically driven by their dietary motives, but not specifically just because of their dietary motives, but because of their higher values, like love for the animals and their values and ethics. So these people have much adherence to our plant-rich diet. And on the next hand, we have strivers. So these people have their dietary motives, but they are not very strongly there for the plant love, or you can say they are just there for their health reason, and their adherence to the plant-rich diet is not that much as seen. So can you move to the next slide, Megha? So now, as far as our industry is concerned, that's the vegan food industry, we rely on the self-declaration. Okay, so the most anticipated challenge is the authentication of the vegan food products, or you can say the plant-based food products, when we talk of ensuring the food safety, as well as there are a lot of food frauds that are going on in the market nowadays. So to dodge these food fraudulence, we just have to assure the authentication, and we just have to authenticate the products that are plant-based into the market. And the other challenge is to strengthen our supply chain, which the people are doing, which we have been also working, like industry is working, and this problem is getting solved day by day. So please, the next slide. So for keeping the trust of the sustainers, we have to come up with some of the protocol for vegan authentication, and there are some analytical methods like geo extraction kits are used nowadays. Rapid Finder vegan ID kits are there that can detect animal DNA very specifically, that is less than 100 ppm also. So these are some kits which are being used in the international markets for the detection of animal DNA. And Eurofins has also produced some type of a specific real-time PCR for the analysis of animal DNA in any kind of vegan food product. So not only any kind of animal DNA can be seen in any plant-based food products, but we can also detect the microorganism and the microbial load through these kinds of methods. But the challenge is here now to come up with much sensitive, accurate, as well as universally accepted methods, and basically the methods which are replicable, which are less expensive, you can say, and are inexpensive, so that the industry and the companies basically can use those methods every time and can come up with their results. And the industry not only just rely on the self-declaration basis, but there has to be some analytical method that the industry has to develop. So we understand that there are a lot of startups in the market, and these methods are sometimes very expensive also. And so what we can do, that some big players in the market can have their research and development team, and with the like labs which are established in India and which are doing well, which are of great importance and relevance to our country, they can come up, we can collaborate with them and can replicate these type of methods in much cheaper version, so that it can be acceptable and you can say adapted by most of the industry people which we are having nowadays. So please move on to the next slide, Neha. So by switching, or you can say by coming up with all these analytical tests that can be done for detection of any animal DNA in the plant-based food products, we not only just protect our customer adherence to our product, but it is also an opportunity for the industry, that maybe the third party certification can come up, one lab can come up that, yeah, we are providing you this kind of analytical method, and you can just give your sample, we can just get it done very minimal prices, and then you can just get our certification. So till now in India, we don't have such kind of third party certifications also going on for plant-based or vegan products. So this is a great opportunity. This is a loophole which can be filled up. There is a dark area, there's a gray area which can be filled up, and the big players in the market, in the plant-based market, and the labs basically can come up to just take up this issue. Then this switching to on or switching on to these methods will also provide a particular food safety as well as quality assurance that will protect the interest of customer in purchasing these kind of products again and again, as well as it will also open the ways for our produce, for the Indian plant-based produce in the international market also, because when these analytical methods will be globally accepted, then definitely our market, our products will have a better scope in the international market as well. Then the point that is relevant to maintaining the quality of the food product, as well as by maintaining the proper supply chain, we can also procure quality raw materials, and we can just lower down our prices of plant-based food product to some extent, because you can understand, because of the unavailability of raw material, or you can say because we have to procure it from so many places, the quality, the prices of the produce, that is plant-based produce, is very high. It is like it's not made for a middle class man, you can say. So for increasing, you can say, the profit margins, or for bringing the price of plant-based food products into a more nominal range, we can just have a proper supply chain. And I think plant protein cluster is a very good initiative in that sense, and we can have further more initiatives also to strengthen our supply chain. So that's all from my side.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roshan. I think it was very interesting to hear one of the key aspects that you mentioned, that while we need universally accepted methods in terms of the analytical detection that we're doing, or analytical methods, but at the same time, we need to make sure that they are cost effective, considering our price sensitive market. And also something interesting that you mentioned was that the startups need a lot of support, which is something that the cluster can provide, and the larger companies can also provide. So it's essential that we collaborate together. So it was great hearing from you, Dr. Roshan. Now, next up, we have Mr. Abhay Rangan. So he has been around for quite some time now. So he has been an active advocate for the plant-based industry since he was very young. And like Sir mentioned, he's a very dear friend of his. So Abhay Rangan is the founder of One Good, formerly known as Good Milk as well. And I'm sure all of us must have tasted his products at some point, because there's a large variety available. So over to you, Abhay. We can learn from your hands-on experience. Yeah.
No, thanks for that very kind introduction, Aditi. It's a pleasure to be here addressing everybody. Honestly, I think the previous speakers covered so much information that I really don't know where to start. I think I can only speak to my experience in this space. I think we've had a couple of challenges with nomenclature, which has been, I think, a significant consideration for the plant-based movement, considering that we are really creating products that are dairy 2.0 or meat 2.0 or eggs 2.0, and not being able to call these products for the functions that they've been intended to make good on is a challenge. And to that end, there are a couple of public interest litigations. There is a stay order in the Delhi High Court regarding some action that FSSAI took, I think 2-3 years back, regarding e-commerce platforms, regarding asking e-commerce platforms to ban plant-based products with the nomenclature of dairy. This is still at the moment undecided, although our position is very much that plant-based milk has existed in India forever. Coconut milk, poppy seed milk, other milks have existed for a long time. And as such, the country is not unfamiliar with plant-based milks. It is only a matter of the regulator acknowledging this and acknowledging the fact that allowing plant-based products to be called by dairy nomenclatures, then we'll always clarify that it's not dairy, right? So it's in our interest to say that it's not a dairy product. In fact, it is one of the USPs. We're not trying to imitate dairy or fake dairy. We're trying to create an entirely new supply chain, new system that ensures food security for all. So it's actually in the consumer interest to call plant-based milks as milks and so on. And I think moving forward, we are optimistic that the regulator will come around and see that this is in the best interest of everybody, including the innovation landscape. India's potential to be a net exporter of the leading plant-based products in the world. I think we have such a strong and robust agri supply chain. And just like Sweden has Oatly, I think India will soon have a range of plant-based products, probably and very likely from millets, that really form the next wave of plant-based products being consumed around the globe. It started with soy, then went to almonds, then went to oats. I think millets are also there. I think all of these are very interesting and useful in their own ways. I think as a vegan myself, I've been vegan for 13 years. I use all these products and all these ingredients from all these companies, and it's really interesting to see all the great things that you can produce with the gamut of recipes available in the Indian cuisine for all of us. So as such, I think India is poised to be a leader in the plant-based space. It is inevitable. We have so many agri inputs. We have so many basic processing facilities. I think one of the cool things that I've seen traveling around India to look at manufacturing plants is the amount of facilities and the amount of capacity even available to process raw materials of plant-based products. This could be from protein processing to isolation to even basic things like frying, roasting, etc. There's so many options out there, and particularly I think Tamil Nadu has been a fascinating journey for me in just learning how many factories there are and just the amount of professionalism. I think it is inevitable that India will start being a leader in this space, and it is in all our interest to accelerate this transformation. We must not merely watch it happen, and that is my sort of appeal to the regulator, is that let us not wait for it to happen. If we make it happen, then very soon, the India story in plant-based foods it is just waiting to happen. I think the country has the optics of it. We clearly have everything in place to lead. And our experiences has been a little challenging. The regulator has been a little litigious in the past, and our hope is that they change their minds on it and come around. That's really the 2 cents that I had. I think my congratulations to previous speakers on just such detailed presentations with so much technical know-how. I think they really elevated this discussion.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Abhay. I think what you mentioned about India being very strong on the basic processing facilities, that's something that even Sir mentions, that it's time we leverage our strengths. And of course, you mentioned millet, soy, and all of those. And the nomenclature is something that I think PBFI is continuously working on, and it's something that Sir also is actively leading. So let's hope we keep working on it and get a positive outcome from there. Now, moving on to our next speaker, we have Ronak, who is the co-founder of Made from Plants. Now, he brings in a very interesting perspective because they create fresh products, right? So it'll be interesting to know from him how they have established their whole supply chain and what do they do on a daily basis in terms of food safety. So over to you now, Ronak.
Okay, thank you, Aditi. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me on this panel. So I'll first start with why food safety is important. So currently, I was putting out some stats. 1 out of every 10 people in the world gets affected by the foodborne diseases, and around 1 lakh of them die every year in India. The cost of foodborne disease upwards of $2 billion annually, and that's because we didn't process our food right. So food safety is a matter of concern, which is obviously covered by previous speakers. The good thing with plant-based dairy industry is that since our food, I'm talking specifically about dairy industry, since our food is over processed, so we do so much of processing, especially heat processing. All the bacteria, all the enzymes gets inactivated. So it's like a how shall for the lack of a better word, it's a blessing in disguise. So I think Nahari in his opening introduction mentioned that our products are over processed, but there are always two sides of a coin. So over processing helps the product to make it more safe. Then coming to what happens is, I'm again coming from a dairy perspective. If you take any Tetra Pak or any long shelf life product, the product is bound to be safe more than any fresh supply chain, and that's what we are saying. We will build a supply chain which is safe for the consumers, which is cost effective, which provides a superior product to the consumer. And this comes at a cost of food safety, because we have to maintain cold temperatures in the full supply chain. And it's not an easy task. It's very difficult to set up a supply chain. Dairy industry has done it in over 70 years, and they have done it very well. I think the whole supply chain is very well established now, that they work on less than 2.5 rupees margin per liter. That too, that too when that too maintaining the temperature, which refrigeration temperature. Having said that, coming back to plant-based dairy industry, I think the onus of the food safety lies on us. We can't be dependent on food regulators, or specifically if it is in our case, to make the drafts and then send and ask then they cannot enforce it, because they are not, they are always underpowered, undermanned. They'll always lack human resources. They can't enforce it. So the biggest problem right now is the lack of awareness among the people who work on the floor. So if you go to any, if you leave big MNCs, if you go to any food processing plant in India now, you will see people are doing production with their jewelries on. So it's big hazardous food safety risk. But if you tell them to remove jewelry every day, to remove their watches every day, to wear a clean apron every day, it becomes a tedious task for them, and everybody nobody wants to do some extra work. So the biggest challenge or the biggest change in the food safety will come if we'll empower the people who are working on the shop floors. So since we're already out of time, so I've kept it short on purpose. If you have any questions, I'm open to it. And thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Ronak. It was a pleasure hearing from you. And like you mentioned, that while we keep our supply chain cost effective, we have to make sure that it's not at the cost of food safety. And this is something that while we are setting up these startups, it's essential that we always remember this, because it will be beneficial in the long run. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure hearing from you. Now, moving on to our last but definitely not the least speaker, Varun. He is the co-founder of Ceasefire. We tasted their we tasted their sushis earlier, and they were super amazing. And they've recently gone D2C. Uh, they've gone big, and they are now listed on their website and Vegan Dukan also. So Sagar, we like sorry, Sagar, because Vegan Dukan. Yeah. So, Varun, we would like to know from you on what has your experience been, since plant-based seafood is a very interesting and niche segment that you have chosen. So, over to you. It is a pleasure
So,
having you.
Thank you, Aditi, and thanks everyone at PBFI to organize this very amazing, insightful webinar. I think we have heard to a lot of speakers, and most of the prospects or very important criteria for the industry as well as for the businesses as well as for the regulators are well talked about. So I was just thinking about, what are the key distinctive areas I would like to share today, and hope, thoughtfully, no one has spoken this far, or I mean, like in today's webinar, much in detail on these ones. So, I think as Mr. Ajay in the beginning, he highlighted that how businesses tend to lack the consideration of food safety when it comes to, the priority goals in the business. As a food processing company, essentially we were mainly focused around, innovation and building our technology. And obviously, when we move towards commercialization phase, food safety is utmost for us, because obviously when you work with novel ingredients, new processing methods, the before even you go to the commercial side of things, you have to think about the technology and the product risks, right? So in that process, we have identified and we have worked around a lot to, address our food safety policy. So starting with that, I think the most critical point as a business is that, as a plant-based business, is really a focus on, the quality measures that you ensure, or the policies you ensure to for the procurement of the ingredients, right? So, going through directly dealing with the suppliers, we need to have a process in place in the organization to how do we entertain new suppliers. As someone highlighted that if it's a multi-fold procurement system, then you need to look at the all the standard declarations and the policies, both at the distribution level of ingredients and the supply level of ingredients, who's manufacturing it, where they backward integrated for their sources, as well as how the distributors are, managing the inventories. So I think as a business operator, we at Cspire pay a huge attention on our own raw material inventory, because that's a very important area for cross contamination of ingredients that we have to be very cautious about. So like I can't speak or I can't comment for how, like we can have distributors who shouldn't, manage special steps to allocate to the food security side of things. But let's just be focused that most of these, the reputed food suppliers and the distributors do have proper, inventory storage systems. But as a business operator, starting from when you procure the ingredients, we have to be very careful about how their specs are looking. Is there any consistency? If there are any discrepancies, what is our risk mitigation policy around that? And special focus on how do we manage the inventory of these raw materials. So within the raw materials, as a technical perspective, has to be thrown mainly on the bioactive ingredients like uh, enzymes, fats, and micronutrients like vitamins, because these are very susceptible to different storage conditions. Even, like slightly warmer temperatures in your warehouses can, totally take the potential of these ingredients. They can tend to behave very negatively in your products. So I think that inventory control is totally up to the businesses. They have to be very careful. If a business, for example, plant-based businesses are heavily, looking for opportunities in exports. So when you are, an export-driven business, we have to be more careful about our sourcing. For example, when we were trying to, put our products into some markets in Australia, we were actually asked if our pea protein is sourced from China or from Europe. So, in exports market, they are very, very cautious about, where the raw materials are sourced. I mean, as a business, we can work towards achieving higher cost efficiencies and try to source it from, a place like China. But if it doesn't works for our bigger market, then what's the point? So, we have to be very careful about our ingredient sourcing. Have to ensure that across the value chain, we make sure that all the declarations, all the risk mitigation policies from where we source it to where we want to position the products are all well integrated. I mean, there shouldn't be any discrepancies. And if someone is looking for sourcing, having multiple vendors or multiple supply streams for a same kind of commodity, that's a more adding much and more complicacy to the businesses. So businesses have to ensure that the processes are in place, and then every of your commodity sourcing or, product supply chain has to fall into those processes. We can't just go random that, okay, we have identified A, B, and C, three sources of ingredients. We have identified three markets, and without any process, we are just operating on our feel of gut. It might be very detrimental for the business in the long run. So I think defining that processes has been very, very helpful for us, even when we didn't went commercial. So right now we are managing our own raw material inventory. That is actually a good learning exercise for us. We went through a lot of learning curves that, which kind of commodity has to be stored and handled, how well it has to be handled. So that is the piece I wanted to say on the raw materials. The second part is, like, obviously most of the plant-based, promoters over here do look for contract manufacturing at the third parties. So fortunately, the manufacturing or the food processing ecosystem in India is definitely improving a lot year by year, I have to say. I think we should all acknowledge the given priority concerns to food safety. But yet we have to, as a business, you can't totally rely on the third party manufacturer just to, say that, okay, this is done. Obviously they are well equipped with their HACCP plans, but it's always a good exercise to, kind of keep your own, policies in place, have a monitoring activity. Even if you're getting it through third party, have your representative at the point of at the point of manufacturing, do have your representative present over there so that they can ensure that everything comply with your own in-house processes, be it, packaging, labeling, or obviously you can't do much onto the processing side of things, but once the product is done, how it has to be handled. There's definitely, the manufacturers are always willing to, have that kind of coordinated bond from business operators and the manufacturers. So I think as companies, we really need to make sure that our own in-house policies are in place, and training across our hierarchy of teams, right? So, if I'm a business operator and I can acknowledge all these risks related to product or the procurement or the operation side of things, it's my job to well coordinate these risks to my team members, be it, on the procurement side or on the production side or onto the QA. So that kind of, transparency and that kind of complying with the policies has to be on the tips for every business promoter. The other thing that is very important for all the plant-based businesses or the ecosystem in India right now is the, inventory of the product. So even once we have made our product, we can ensure that, our warehouses are operating right. But what about the distributors and the the last mile delivery operators or the retailers who are storing your product? So I think it's very important for the businesses to really appoint the right personnel, right, team members to have. No, I mean, we can't say that we have to stand on the heads of, these forward integration partners, but really ensure again a system in which, there's periodic checks of our stock. We don't want that there's a product liability to, the end consumer will always recognize your value as a business through the service they are getting, right? So if we give them a pack which is, say, like disformed, or the product is stinking or something like that, or the product is just, kind of, the product is safe, but the primary packaging has suffered some kind of compromise in the logistics, right? That will all be suffered in the loss of brand, the consumer trust in the brand. So I think that kind of identifying any risk, and India is definitely, yet to overcome those kind of third, the tertiary risks that are associated with all kind of product, handling into the supply chain. So I think businesses really have to take a crucial part in that. Who all are your inventory partners? Try to visit them quarterly or monthly basis to see every stock is there. If any stock is damaged, as a business, we like to take that recall and put the best products out there, because obviously we have to manage the cost efficiencies, but at the same time we don't want to compromise on our product quality or the service quality delivery. So as a business, I think the utmost important to identify the risk, allocate those risks to, the kind of quality you want to deliver to your consumers, to your business partners, and then work accordingly in between to, allocate the right resources, allocate the right capital, allocate the right time frames, and define a process around the complete, food safety aspects, be it, sourcing your right raw materials, ensuring that everything is, everything is well controlled, well stored, and then processing to supply chain and moving forward in the market. Ultimately, as I said, highlighted once again, like, I want to throw more emphasis on the export side of things, because let's just agree, like, only few brands, or, in terms of the complete food manufacturing ecosystem of India, it's a very less percentage that is being exported as a finished product or a, finished goods out of India, right? That is primarily because of the concerns that, before 10 years before, the industry have acknowledged onto the, processed food processing in India. Definitely this is improving, but we need to ensure that we improve, that consumer perception, and, remove that kind of stigma that Indian food processing is, full of adulterants or misleading, things in the processing and stuff. So yeah, I mean, like, as a business promoter, processes have to be in place and ensure that everything complies well. So that's us from my side. And yeah, thanks, Aditi.
Yeah, thank you so much, Varun, for sharing your hands-on experience. How you mentioned that while innovation is at the core of ceasefire, which is what we all know, but you made sure that food safety policy is something that you look at, starting from sourcing to how you're managing your inventory to how the distribution is taken care of. So I think that is a very important aspect. Uh, all right, so it was a pleasure having you. Now, before I think that is the end of all the speakers that we had. But before we move on to the team, so all of us can share our thoughts and insights of what we learned from the webinar. I think we can keep the portal open if in case any of you have any thoughts that you would like to share. We would love to hear from you. In case you have anything to share, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself. So. Or if any of the previous speakers as well want to share anything, we would love to hear from you guys as well.
I think I will quickly like to add a statement that, 2022, when we started the journey, I mean, not ceasefire, but, the wider plant-based ecosystem of India, 2023 has been a year full of challenges for many brands, I think, both on the operational as well as, many other aspects of the businesses. But let's just ensure that, 2024 see the real dawn of plant-based ecosystem from India. So we are just hoping that next year brings in, more value for the industry as well as for everyone in the ecosystem, and all the kudos to PBFI to make that happen.
Thank you so much, Varun, for sharing that. All right, anyone else who would like to share something? All right, I think we have pin drop silence now. So I'll quickly go ahead and share some of my thoughts, and then we'll move over to the team, Narhari and Indra, and towards the end, Medha can share a collective insight of everything that we've learned today from all the expert speakers. So it was a pleasure hearing from all of you. And I think somehow we ended up getting a very diverse set of panels who shared different kinds of, who touched upon all the aspects that there are with respect to food safety, starting from the importance of sourcing it right, multi-graded sourcing and traceability, to how do we have proper detection mechanisms, audits in place, as well as well-established recall methods, and how food safety is at the heart of the entire ecosystem. And I think one main thing that I would be my takeaway is food safety is not something that just the regulators need to take care of, but it is something that we all need to look into and make sure it is at the core of our businesses. So now over to Narhari and Indra and Medha to close. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Aditi. I have a quick points that I would love to mention here. So first of all, from all the speakers, most of the speakers have one point in common. That was that, in India, every FBO is liable for their own food safety practices. So here we have to focus more, for example, if there is one wrong product in the plant-based industry, that could impact the entire industry's image, because we are still a new industry altogether. So we should all, I think we should all be together and not work in silos. That would help us a lot. And next is, as Varun mentioned, that we have to not only focus on our manufacturing, but also on the distribution, as in some local shopkeepers to switch off their freezers at night, which can actually hamper or maybe destroy their product quality. So continuous defrosting of product and refreezing it will actually lead to bad product quality and might also lead to food poisoning. And last is, if you have any queries or anything related to food safety or other work streams that are policy advocacy, innovation, investment, and food supply chain, do write to us, and we'd be more than happy to support you all. Thank you. Over to Indra.
Yeah, I think her connection, she got dropped off.
Yeah, I think she dropped off. I think I will take up and summarize. So thank you to all the speakers for sharing their expertise and all the attendees who could actively come and participate. So actually, we did this session today because we were trying to consider that even the small corporates and the startups should prioritize the food safety management system. That should be the core of the business, and that should be safeguarding the customers as well as their brand. So today it was well highlighted that food safety risk can arise from various sources, which can include presence of pathogens or physical contaminants or storage issues or packaging issues. And there are like the kind of potential microbial or cross-contamination that can occur in plant-based foods may vary. And we need to identify that what are those specific variations that can occur. And we should be very much ready to have a detection methods and methods to combat these challenges as well, because the consequences of inadequate food safety management system cannot be underestimated. They have the potential to damage the brand reputation and can lead to a lot of financial crisis as well. So it's important to secure appropriate license and registration, comprehend the complexities of the FoSCoS or FoSTaC system that have been established by FSSAI, also establish a food safety plan, train your staff, conduct thorough inspection of everything which is incoming into your facility or outgoing from your facility, and have adherence towards the good manufacturing practices and good hygienic practices. Furthermore, it is also important to highlight that within our industry, there are which are categorized allergens and that are being avoided by the industry because of the consumer perception. So we should have that opportunity that we should dwell deeper and try to understand these misconceptions separately, and also try to educate more about these misconceptions to others and to the other industry members as well. So as an association, we recognize that the critical importance is occurring towards proper labeling for plant-based foods. A lot of members have also faced that issues in past years, and of course, that is the most challenging right now. So we are trying to write many times to the government in terms of representations. We also bring this topic in our panel discussions that we have at different forums and platforms. So we're trying to drive it ahead. And we also request the members to come and share their concerns with us, their challenges with us, so that we as a collective voice can represent it to other members or the concerning government departments. So I just want to leave right here with this message. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Meeta. I think Sir has also joined. So.
Thank you, Aditi. I think it was a wonderful opportunity to listen about something which is very, very important. And we had an amazing lineup of these speakers, and sorry, I had to step out. But the way it looks like that the members are more than prepared. So all the fear that we had that one day there will be a bad news which will strike from the blue and hit us, I think we need not be worried. People are ready. People understand, and the startups are getting ready to give the big organizations a run for their money. So with this, we can close this. Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.